It's for us.
Thank you for having us here for the Token Taverns premiere. And we've got the guy who's busy with a teenage girl on his TikTok over there, Walter Day, the father of esports. We have the legendary game, #1 champion in the world, William Mitchell, here. And you can tell us what your role is.
Okay, so my name is Bob Rose. I'm a local filmmaker in Tampa, Florida. And this movie, we've actually been filming it for 2 years. We started, ironically, in February of 2020. So you can imagine what the last 2 years has been like with that. And that's definitely something we cover in the movie. Token Taverns is really an inside look to the into the arcade bar industry, kind of why these things are popping up everywhere across the country, well, across the world now, and we really get into why this is kind of becoming a phenomenon and how arcade bars are bringing a new spotlight back to classic games, to arcade machines, and back to the arcade. Everybody's coming back to the arcade. So we really focus on a few arcade bars, mainly in Tampa Bay, Reboot over in Dunedin, Lowry Parkade in Tampa, and Vector in Clearwater, Florida. We also filmed some at Glitch, and they're featured as well as Arcade Odyssey. Now these guys right here, they kind of come into play as obviously experts in the field, also grounding us into the history of arcades. Really kind of, it's really interesting hearing from you guys about what you thought about where this industry was going. And obviously with these conventions, and you guys, I mean, these guys are like, every weekend, you're at another convention. And it's kind of cool that I think that arcade bars are really kind of helping that out a little bit. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show the trailer. This is a Freeplay exclusive. No one has seen this. I probably won't even post this version on the internet. It'll be in some other shape or form. Probably a little bit shorter. I'm giving you guys a little bit extra because you guys are the demographic. You guys are the audience. We've really made this film for you guys. And just a quick side note, this is mine and my wife's third movie. I work a lot in documentaries and sports docs and some reality TV, but we do these for ourselves. This is the first movie we've done where we are actually part of the audience. We are the demographic. And we are complete pinball junkies now because of this film, so that's a plus and a minus there. But we're going to show the trailer. We will, I'll give you guys a little bit of background on some of the filming and some of the things we did over the last 2 years, and just open up for Q&A and see what you guys think, and any questions you want to ask these guys, and we'll go from there. Sound good? You got the film? Yeah, well, Billy's got it, although he hasn't watched it yet. You can watch the trailer now. if you want, you can. Have you seen it? You want to go around? You sit there. No audio? Turn it up a bit. Oh, this is really good.
When we filmed, I didn't agree to Stormy Daniels. What are we doing? What kind of film is this?
They had to spice it up a little bit.
It'll work. There's no way.
We bring.
Alexa, play audio.
I know that guy, he owes me money.
Blame Neil.
This is Neil Hernandez.
Hashtag.
A feeling of deja vu overtakes the entire film.
So, that's your man, Alexa.
spell English.
Totally, any relationship, obviously.
My legs is married. My legs is married.
Groundhog Day.
There's a girl that goes down and say, hey, I'm ready to see where I'm like, I'm sorry, wait.
Should we do a drum roll?
Is that
Alexa, put her up. I'll do it on, not
Before there were arcades, before there was a business to be had from having arcade machines in a venue, bars were the place of the grand.
Because of the experience we had back in the 80s that is now revived with the arcade bar. It's brought a resurgence.
There are a huge number of arcade bars popping up all over the country.
It's this new meeting ground for people. They're doing gangbuster business.
We've been busy trying to keep beer stocks, and it's nuts. Being able to experience this piece of our childhood, the whole nostalgia aspects of it, like they just go so well together.
You got all your old favorite games. Come on in, play the games. You have beer, whiskey, my preference whiskey. But
I walked in my first arcade bar, I was just like almost in tears. I'm like, oh my God, someone gets me.
You get to do something they love and share it with a community that's incredibly supportive.
90s hip-hop, beer, the video games, you know it's not work.
You can't have a business like this and not be passionate about it.
Played the game with the owner of this place, and he fucking destroyed me. Not leave that video from you?
It is announcing last call for bars and nightclubs requiring their shutdown.
COVID-19 is definitely a curveball. Maybe a lot of places that don't deal with it.
Being closed for almost 3 months was kind of rough.
I'm facing weeks where we're making maybe $200.
Really, we had momentum going on, and then just COVID happened.
Let's go here.
Now there's a whole pandemic. What do we do?
we drink. Cheers.
It's pretty. Thank you.
Only in 2020, story videos are coming to reboot. I think Donald Trump's favorite character in Mario Kart was Toad.
I'm triggered. I'm leaving.
I was like, oh my God, there's gotta be like wrestling too in this place. All this epicness is just happening right on the other side of this building.
If you want to play, I'll play it. Yeah, but maybe we'll wait for like tonight's deadline.
The connection, that goes beyond the physical game.
If it wasn't for this place, I wouldn't be who I am today.
This place really means family to us. I never thought it would become a spot where people love it as much as they do. We're just a friendly neighborhood arcade bar.
It's a way that it's been introduced to a whole new generation. I think it's a pretty exciting time to be a gamer because pretty soon around your corner there's going to be an arcade bar.
To me, the most unique phenomenon of the arcade era is that the games were born in a public setting. And now in the arcade bar, you're being reborn in a public setting.
It brings back the fever and passion from the 1980s. It's a great place. It really brings back history.
Token Taverns! Boom shakalaka!
Watch
Do a little retro there.
That was awesome. That really was.
All right, guys. So that is so off the press. I started driving here yesterday around 1 o'clock, and I think I finished around 12. So you guys are the first to see it. We filmed this movie over the course of 2 years, and as you can see, you know, we really try to not only give a bit of history, but also talk about this as an industry, but really show it to you through personal stories. And I guess you guys, I mean, we all watch documentaries now. I feel like that is key. And first off, I want to give thanks to Robert, Mike, and George for really opening up your lives and letting us just point a camera in your business, literally in your business, and in your lives. And I really think that that is represented on film. So I just want to thank you guys for that. If you guys are in the Tampa Bay area, definitely go check these guys out. You guys have saw this for the first time. What do you think?
Well, it's pretty cool, man. It's great. I think that the arcades are just an incredible, thing that might kind of evolve. Just kind of, it was a thing that now it was meant to be, and it's finally come to fruition, and that's an awesome thing. You're promoting it even more. That's even better.
Yeah, and first of all, fantastic job. And with all the shows that we have been doing lately, and I think one of the first ones after COVID, met you and your wife and filming, I'd totally forgotten about it, so what a nice little surprise to see this. But it's something that we've all been echoing out on tour, and Walter, you and Billy both had great lines in there about it was born in the arcade, now it's back, and rebirth in the arcade where it belongs. And I remember going out on the tours saying that it's the time that a whole new generation is coming together out in the arcades when a new younger generation has often been in their rooms playing. They had a whole generation like playing, by themselves in the basement, their bedroom, on a headset with someone across the ocean or across the street or whatever, but by themselves in the arcades that were always meant in the original, form to be a social, get-together, place to play and have fun. So it's so good to see people gather around again. Like NBA Jam with 20 people around the cabinet is so much different than the experience of playing on your phone, the EA Sports version like this. So it's great, and we've all realized that the popularity of the shows that we do around the country coincide, not coincidentally, with all the arcades popping up. And in Chicago, for instance, a couple of large nightclubs that used to be the big bottle service, $300 for a bottle of vodka, have now been transported into the arcades. That's the new thing. After work, people want to go and do something with coworkers, and that's a nice way to meet people. It's like just sitting and drinking that vodka. So it's a great thing to be here at this show, which really celebrates the community of arcade. And thanks, you guys. I can't wait to get to your arcade sometime. Looks great. And thank God that you survived, and we survived, and the show survived through COVID, So it's even that much of a bigger coming out party for all of us to have this to celebrate. Nice timing.
Right. What's one thing that's interesting, and I want to hear from you guys too, but I'll tell you this real quick, is one of the kind of obstacles that we had. We started filming right as COVID was starting, literally. The first scene we shot at Parkade 2 days later, and this is represented in the movie, is when COVID started. So we actually started filming into COVID, and so what was kind of an interesting or a difficult thing that we had to get past was we didn't want this to be a COVID movie. COVID is definitely a factor, as it has been in all of our lives over the past few years, but that was part of the reason why we did film over 2 years. So what we were able to do is when you start this movie for the first 30, 40 minutes, we're just telling the story of arcade bars. We're giving you some history. We're telling you, we got to make these for people who don't know, right? So while making it for you guys. So we introduce everybody, we introduce arcade bars, and then COVID happens. And then we shoot for another year and a half past that. We literally even have a 1 year time jump that kind of gets us out of that and kind of where we are now. And which is interesting. What happened is in that period of time, and this is definitely represented in the movie, is the industry has changed and in a good way. So when we started filming this, these arcade bars were on the rise, and obviously it took a big shitstorm like everything. But once we got through that, they're bigger than ever, and we see that in attendance to these places. We see everybody. We see new people, and you guys talk about this in the movie, and this is definitely a topic we talk about. Is the new generation. We go out. We go out whether we're filming or not. We're at Parkade or one of these guys almost every week, and there's always a new group of people that didn't grow up in these arcades. They've never had this experience. And, my son over here, he is like me now. He literally has been growing up in an arcade. You see him go from here to here in the course of filming. And I think that's just something really cool. It's like the magic is back. People are kind of getting wrapped up in this pixel world that you can only get when you're in this, and that goes from kids like my son all the way through. And that's another thing people don't really talk about. You say arcade bar, but during the day, these things are families, right? They're arcades that dad gets to drink a beer, you know? So it's just a really interesting time. And even like pinball, we all see how pinball has, post-COVID, gotten bigger than ever. The machines have literally got a good grand more. They cost $1,000 more.
They're out waiting for a year.
Right. And these are all things that we see in the movie. You know, we see Robert picking up the newest Godzilla, and what that feels like for an arcade bar owner to open that ultimate unboxing, but to do it in this new kind of, there's a new appreciation. I guess you guys probably see that as well, because you guys couldn't tour, do any of your stuff, you know, during COVID. So be able to come back and you see everybody's coming to these shows. It's just this new breath of air that I'm so glad that it was like, it was a happy accident, or just a serendipity, if you will, that we did film for the amount of time we did, because I think it's a point in history, but also just shows you what these places and what these machines can mean to the community and to people. So.
Well, all of that answers my first question, because I was going to ask how long you thought COVID actually delayed what you were doing, and obviously you have an answer to that, but you were able to take it, you were able to enhance your film because of COVID.
Right, so we actually, we filmed for March into probably a good part of a year, almost a year, and then we literally stopped filming for a good 6 months, didn't film anything at all. I went to Atlanta and worked on a Netflix series, and just kind of let things ride. I kind of wanted things to kind of settle down a little bit. I honestly, to be frank, I just didn't want to end the movie Max world, you know? So, and it worked out that way, and with that happening, it allowed us to get footage that we used throughout the movie. Because we had two bins, masked footage and non-masked footage. and mixing and matching that to tell the story. The story is the story, so we try to find the best way to do that. But this new appreciation that everybody has for just going out, and also, like we said, these young people who are now going out, they weren't going out before. They were staying, like you said, wrapped up in their phones, wrapped up in playing online. And now people are rubbing shoulders at Street Fighters, and more coming.
Yeah, going back to a point that was made earlier over here about the time, literally I received a message, just a not very good message, that somebody called about a film. And I thought, nah, I just pushed it aside. And then this guy says, hey man, he's trying to get a hold of you. He's trying to finalize the Tokens and Taverns. And I go, man, I'm sure that film's out. I go, no, they screwed up the message. So I was convinced that it was, the time had passed enough that the film must have been put out. So, yeah, I want to pick on you because you were delayed by COVID, but then I want to congratulate you because you were able to enhance it because of COVID.
Right. I didn't want the movie to be about that. It is definitely something that's affected all our lives. But, you know, like, industries change. People's, like, my career took a big shift itself. I reality edit at home on my computer now because that's what the industry does since COVID. It's like, oh wow, that works well. But this industry in particular, I think what's so great about it is it gave all these people that go there something that they needed and missed, even if they didn't know they needed it, right? They need to be out and communicating. And I mean, you talk about this in the movie too, just about how it has enhanced the dating scene, in that it's so much easier to go to an arcade bar and meet a person over a game, you know, you're not like, oh, what's my line? You guys are talking about the game, and it's just, it's really cool.
Right off the bat, you share, similar passion, which is great. And I was thinking of the difference between kids, with the generation of handheld devices for their games. It's like going to the local playground with your kid, they might have you know, this little thing, the swing or something, and then go to Six Flags or Universal or Walt Disneyland. And here we are in Florida. The arcade experience, the noises, the bells, the whistles, when it's all lit up at night, when you can come in here for the after party last year, and the lights were off overhead, and all the machines were going, it's Christmas tree lights. It's just magic. There's just such an energy you cannot get from a phone or an iPad. And so for the younger generation to see this physical thing, and when you're younger and you're first getting up to it, you're like reaching up to the play table, and to see all that stuff happen, so exciting to witness it firsthand when I see a family. You said like mom, dad, and sometimes even the grandkids coming in. And I had this great picture of one of my first arcades of a kid in a stroller playing with the phone, you know, and dad was at the arcade, and right next to dad playing, there was a kid, you know, playing, you know, reaching up trying to hit the flippers. So
It's funny, what you're saying sounds like my initial testimonial when I went to Fun Spot, 500 game arcade. I came back, people said, what was it like? And I said, I mean, it's absolutely magical. It is like a kid going into Disney World. So they can pick on you or me or whatever about how immature we are about falling in love with something like a kid falls in love with Disney World, but that's exactly what happens. I mean, exactly. And for me, it came in two different stages. For example, I was in a barcade, or I was somewhere, and I'd have somebody of a similar age who had the same pastime as me. It's just we didn't know each other then. So then it was, hey, you remember this? And we'd go around and we'd turn around, because now, not being teenagers, we had a little money in our pocket. And we could go and we could play, and we could have fun, and we could interact, you know, food and drink, and interact at the games. But then it went to another level, because I'm in that same situation, but now I'm there with my kids. Oh, let me show you what I used to do. But my kids never, believe it or not, never went to the arcade with me. And even when we first did go to an arcade, I was just chasing them around trying to keep track of them. So now they were a little older, and I could say, here, let me show you what it was like. And it was cool, because on the opposite effect, my daughter was in Mississippi, and she calls me, she goes, Dad, do you know about this? She goes, I'm in my friend's grandmother's kitchen. She says, and I'm talking to you on the phone right now, and they got this phone that goes, so it's funny, it's worlds colliding together. Yeah. Exactly as you're saying.
Christmas, when you said it was like Christmas, that it is. And the arcades were lit up like Christmas all the time. You know, last night I had the unique, I had a unique chance to hang out with some ex-Disney and Universal guys. And we were talking about the games and talking about some of the movies that they worked on. And something they pointed out that I really hadn't even thought about, but that these games, they're evergreen. You know, like I told my story about Demolition Man, and they said, yeah, but you know what? That pinball game is still out there. You know, nothing else a Demolition Man is, but except for that pinball game. It's still evergreen. You know, we worked on movies, they come, they go, they're ended, you know, maybe they go to DVD, whatever, you know, but our you know, exposure is limited to a certain time period. Yours is like forever. Yeah. And I didn't even think of it at that point, you know, along those lines, but it's true. It really is. And now it's found a whole new, you know, reincarnation with the barcades. And it's really, that was a very interesting point that they made last night.
Going back to your point about Christmas, and one of the things that you enjoy about Christmas, at least once you become an adult, is obviously you have the joy of Christmas. But when you see the joy on somebody else, the satisfaction you get, well, that's what you get when you're in the barcade, or when you're with a friend, or...
That's a great image.
Yeah, whether they're having fun and doing well, or even, I mean, if you're laughing at them. I mean, it's an enjoyment, it's an interaction.
Yeah, you know, we had 7 kids in our family, so not a ton of presents, and, you know, the kind of gifts that you got back then, certainly, you know, early 60s, you know, maybe we had one little, like, a mini kind of pinball game where it's little BBs, you know, we pull, something like that. No electronics, just spring action. But then I remember going to the county fair, and, you know, the term penny arcade, who remembers the actual, like, penny arcade? I think when I went, they were a dime, but they were still called the penny arcade. It was under a huge tent, and there was straw on the floor, and I walked in as a kid, and only having seen, you know, like 1960s kinds of toys, first time ever seeing in upstate New York, small town, seeing all these arcades, and it was mostly those early, like, wooden gun, like, shooter games where you have you know, little jungle animals going around and things. And you had a wooden stepping stool for kids to get up to shoot them. But that feeling of walking into a place filled with lights and gizmos and noises and to stick a dime in there, I mean, it doesn't get any wilder than that. And that's exactly what you're saying. Now we're seeing the new generation coming to an arcade show with their parents. Maybe some of them will be like, oh, do I have to do what mom and dad want? But then they get in here and go, wow.
Yeah, it was funny. I was at IAPA for the past 2 days, and I see a couple with their kid, and I go, gee, you know, Freeplay Florida over here, this and that. And I'm talking, and I says, you go there, and I says, your kid will love it, believe me, truly love it. And that I stopped in mid-sentence, I went, I go, don't kid yourself. You're not going to be able to tear your husband out of there. So I said, so we'll see. But I was really, the other thing about the time period is I was happy to see, for example, Walter's in there.
Right.
And I say that because as I pushed the mic to him, if it hadn't been extended, he wouldn't be in there because he set the example during COVID for quarantine, safety and all that kind of stuff. So he wasn't at any events. So the fact that he took longer, he eventually did venture back out.
Okay, I'm a little more dramatic. I'm going to stand up while I talk. It'll also keep me awake. I stayed up pretty late. So my only complaint is that Neil's not in it.
Neil is in it.
Oh, Neil's in it?
He's been there a couple times.
No, they were afraid they'd get a bad rating.
Okay. So it's interesting.
It's always your fault.
I actually was there for the Oklahoma land rush. I was part of the phenomenon of lots and lots of group of people who were not part of the old lineage of arcade operators, because they're like, by the time that the big Pac-Man, Donkey Kong boom started, we were in about our 4th generation of old-time families, who some of them might have even grown out of the Mafia era or something like that, you know, who had been running games and having routes for 4 generations. And then suddenly, all these doctors and lawyers and dentists were seeing the amazing amount of cash flow that was coming in, and they started opening up arcades. I was part of that era that was starting arcades and joining the industry at a time when before that was only these old-time families. And so it was an Oklahoma land rush where all sorts of people were trying to go around and open up arcades before someone else would open up. So we spent my partner spent all our time driving around Illinois, Missouri, and Iowa, trying to open up as many locations as possible. At the same time, there were dozens of other groups trying to do the same thing. Eventually, everybody opened up in the same towns and put each other out of business, which is bringing me to the point I want to make. It's very interesting that there's a version of an Oklahoma land rush going on where at first there would be a barcade here and a barcade there. Then eventually there's a barcade in every metropolitan area. Now it's not uncommon for the same barcade company to have 3 or 4 more locations in the same great metropolitan area, while other rival companies are opening up their chains in the same area too. Well, what's different from the old 1980 to 82 era is all of these are thriving. Because of the business plan centered around alcohol, they can all be completely successful despite the fact that they're interlined into each other's area. But it doesn't stop them from being full and being successful and doing the miraculous thing of keeping the memory of the vintage games alive. So it's a very interesting phenomenon to me because it's a business plan that is so robust that it's completely changing the landscape of modern community-based socializing. So it's really quite amazing. Anybody have comments on
Well, I was going to say how quickly it's changed too, even worldwide. We were in London in 2005. There was a show there, Classic Gaming Expo UK, and there was not one arcade in the city of London anywhere. There wasn't 2 games together anywhere. There was some presence of people, gee, I got a game at home and things like that. He had a difficult time pulling the games together to have a show like this, but he did. Well, we were just there 2 months ago in September. I mean, the place is littered with arcades. And
at least 5 big ones.
Right, and I had said to a friend of mine in Germany, like about 4 years ago, I said, okay, one day I'm gonna come to your house, I'm gonna knock on the door and say, come on, let's go play classic games, where are we gonna go? And he just looks at me and he goes, I go, a bar, a pinball machine somewhere, it goes, now they're starting to pop up there as well. So it's only spreading or crawling across the landscape. Absolutely. And I'd imagine eventually there'll be a shake-up and things will continue to evolve.
I think in a minute we might open up to Q&A if anybody has any questions. I see a lot of people coming in. No fear, we will totally play the trailer again on the way out. If you guys want to see it again, we'll play it again. Does anybody have any questions about these guys, about our filming? I can tell you real quick, because we're all at a gaming expo. I can tell you just briefly some of we're telling stories, we're talking about this as arcade bars and whatnot, but we touch into so many topics. So yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sure. We are seem to be seeing a bit of a resurgence in arcades, but do you think that's just nostalgia, or do you think it's a legit return?
Okay, so from what I've seen, and I think you guys probably would agree, is I feel like nostalgia brought a lot of people into the arcade bar, but it's not what's keeping people. And what I've seen, and we talk about this in the movie, is that kind of, it was almost built for like us, right? But the people who are putting the most money into these, who are actually not us, they are people who aren't as nostalgic. They're going to be nostalgic about arcade bars or arcades in 20 years from now because they're experiencing it for the first time. I feel like they are going to be kind of the new backbone, So I think it's a mix, though. And these guys are probably, their arcade bars can probably agree. You have your pinball guys that come in at a certain time. You got your regulars. You got people that come in and just hang out at the bar that don't play games. And then you have this whole rush of people that come on Friday at 9 and 10 that are experiencing these things for the first time, and they're generating their memories. And some of them are just going because it's like such a cool hang now.
It's a brand new audience.
Right.
You've got a whole new audience that's showing up and seeing this and having that unique feeling of remember the first time you played? How cool that was? And like Billy said, like Christmas, when you're seeing that joy on their face, I see that in arcades now. We make a lot of appearances, and we do, we're seeing these people, and they're coming up to us and they're saying things like, well, how long has this been here? Why do we now know about this? And I love that because it has a certain amount of wonder. It's like opening your presents at Christmas, It really is. A whole new audience. It's beautiful.
I think the current audience is not necessarily nostalgia-based because those people are all in their 50s now. And I think a lot of the barcades are being filled with 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds. So they're completely falling in love with it, a new experience to them.
I think there's basically people do miss the social aspect, because think about the whole Blockbuster thing. Just going out and actually seeing people face to face. You're not playing over a internet, which can still be fun. I'm not saying that, but there's a big difference between watching somebody over a computer screen as opposed to face to face.
Yeah, to show you how obvious it is, we pick on people. There's a guy and he got a kill screen and on, and he's playing Donkey Kong and he's a great guy and a great player. And then I look at him and I go, wait a minute. I go, Donkey Kong is older than you. You're not supposed to be doing this. Because he's 10 years younger than Donkey Kong. But again, a few years back, or enough years back, you would have just never imagined that was the case.
Yeah, the big difference is that an entire globe has been groomed to be game players from birth. Like as soon as you're old enough in a car seat, the iPad on, everybody plays games now for decades. The original explosion of arcades, you might have one at the malt shop, you might have, if you go to the county fair, like I said, but now everybody's a gamer, so this is just another extension of gaming. Like when music first started its popularity, the young people's music in the 60s, it was thought to be a fad, and record companies, they didn't know it was going to be this multi-billion-dollar industry, and then it became the thing that everyone was centered around music and buying music in the late 60s. That was, if you were a teenager, that's where your money was going, buying 45s. So then everybody became a consumer of music, and now I think it's the same way. Everybody's a gamer now.
No, it's funny.
In every family, there's generations of gamers. So now the arcade is just, we all know what this experience is.
No, it's funny you say that. One of my signature statements is, I always say that, people say, please explain Pac-Man's popularity. And I said, for myself and for many people, it was an introduction in a very non-threatening way to something very new and unusual called a computer. You began to play with it and have fun with it and learn it, not be intimidated by it. That's completely different from today. Today, you could ask any kid the first time they played with electronics and it was far younger than they can remember. Yeah, whereas with us it was when we were already teenagers.
Right.
But what I thought would be really good is the room size is more than doubled as far as the number of people. So we're talking and a lot of people are wondering what we're talking about. So if we play the trailer, they'd see it again and probably leave with more questions.
Yeah, I didn't say that.
Yeah. So yeah, he doesn't have a ticket. That first question came from Mr. Concert. He forgot to say his name.
Before there were arcades, before there was a business to be had from having arcade machines in a venue, bars were the place of the
Because of the experience we had back in the 80s that is now revived in the arcade bar, it's brought a resurgence.
There are a huge number of arcade bars probably all over the country.
It's this new meeting ground for people. They're doing gangbuster business.
We've been busy trying to keep beer stocks, and it's nuts. Being able to experience this piece of our childhood, the whole nostalgia aspects of it, like they just go so well together.
Got all your old favorite games. Come on in, play the games, and have beer, whiskey, my preference whiskey. But
I walked in my first arcade bar, I was just like almost in tears. I'm like, oh my God, someone gets me.
You get to do something they love and share it with a community that's incredibly supportive.
90s hip-hop, beer, the video games, you know it's gotta work.
You can't have a business like this and not be passionate about it.
Playing the game with the owner of this place, and he fucking destroyed me. Might leave that in the yoga here.
Anti-synaptic glass wall from bars and nightclubs require their shutdown.
COVID-19 is definitely a curveball. Maybe a lot of places that don't hear it.
Being closed for almost 3 months was kind of rough. I'm facing weeks where people made off me.
Really, we had momentum going, and then COVID. Let's go here.
Now there's a whole pandemic. What do we do?
we drink. Cheers.
It's free. Thank you.
Only in 2020, Story Daniels is coming to reboot. I think Donald Trump's favorite character in Mario Kart was Toad.
I'm leaving.
Oh my God, this guy got wrestling 2 in this place. All this epicness is just happening right on the other side of this building. If you want to play, I'll play it. Yeah, but like maybe we'll wait for like the next half.
The connection that goes beyond the physical game.
If it wasn't for this place, I wouldn't be who I am today.
This place really means family to us. I never thought it would become a spot where people love it as much as they do. We're just a friendly neighborhood arcade bar.
It's a way that it's been introduced to a whole new generation. I think it's a pretty exciting time to be a gamer because pretty soon around your corner there's going to be an arcade bar.
To me, the most unique phenomenon of the arcade era is that the games were born in a public setting. And now in the arcade bar, you're being reborn in a public setting.
It brings back the fever and passion from the 1980s. It's a great place. It really brings back history.
Token Taverns, boom shakalaka!
All right, guys, there's another panel coming up here at 12, so we're going to close out, but I do want to let you guys know we entered South by Southwest, and this will be on a streaming platform. We're not sure when that is. We're waiting to see if we can premiere South by Southwest. But the best thing you guys can do is go on your phones now, because we all forget, and go on whatever platform you go for social media. We're Token Taverns everywhere. And follow that, and you will know what we're doing and when the movie's coming out. And you'll definitely be seeing us a lot of these shows, because, I mean, we made this movie for you guys. And, you know, we're kind of, this is our space. We're here to stay. So we appreciate you guys coming, and we appreciate you guys coming here. We do have a booth nearby, say hi, we've got some shirts there, I'll be glad to tell you more about the movie, we can share some stories, hang out, drink a beer, don't ask me what's in my cup, and you guys have a great rest of the weekend.
I just want to say thank you to Tony Taverns for having done this. I mean, there's just so many things, and it's advancing, the whole genre. Thank you so much. I mean, really, it's just going to move like revitalization.
If he did it because it was changing his lifestyle, if he did it because he was making that much money, I wouldn't congratulate him, but like most of us, he does it for a labor of love, and that's really cool.
And I have a few more pin-off sheets.